can't look you in the face. I don't wanna have to lie. I wanted this love to survive. Now when I look in your I feel paralyzed.
Hello and welcome to the Space Force Tournament bronze matchup. At the moment, I am your play-by-play caster, Belly OW. With me is the ever wonderful and always informative Moxie. Hi, Moxie.
Well, hello, Belle. I'm looking forward to this. It's teams that we've seen last week, and I mean, we had some real standouts that I'm looking forward to seeing again. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, I'm just looking forward to see the games because these have been pretty damn good teams playing together, and it looks like the teams are indeed the other way around as I've set them up. So hey, yay, let's go. Let's just fix that real quick. That is just a simple thing. One person production to find the words. So yes, to start out indeed actually with the disclaimer, this is a one-man production. I do all the button pressing and all the everything. If stuff goes wrong, if it's a bit awry, then try to say it in chat, and there will be someone in chat admin looking at stuff, and I will try to deal with stuff as fast as I can if there is any issues. But it is a one-man production, lots of stuff going on at the same time. Stuff might go wrong, stuff might be just a bit off. We'll try to fix it as soon as we can, or I try to. That being said, we have indeed Frozen Melons versus Default, which we have seen last week on Saturday? Yes, Saturday.
Yes, Saturday.
Indeed for the semifinals, but tonight is not the semifinals, it's the bronze matchup and the grand finals.
Woo!
But first, indeed, the bronze matchup between Frozen Melons and Default. Now, some fun things at least. There is something very specific that we need to talk about. It's Natsuko from Frozen Melons. We have to mention him. We have to mention him very specifically because we actually have a certain connection with this person already. Not that we know them personally, but they played in a team called Team Average Size Shoes, which obviously shortens to Team Ass. This was very fun and a very interesting challenge, seeing as they played in the Get Good EU season number 3 in the advanced division, we actually cast them there already.
We did, Belle. I feel a special bond in kinship. Not that we'll be biased, but it's lovely to see him again.
Yeah, like it's cool to see players from different teams that we may have seen before, that we may have seen at different tournaments, that we may have cast before. Like it's all cool to just see the same players coming back in several spots. We also got people like, for example, Aidan, who's playing with 1000 DPI and 15 in-game cents, so that's going to be interesting. We can take actually a quick look at the teams, if you're okay with this.
Go for it.
All right. Well, we can take a quick look at Default, where we've got Kukupapa, MC God, or Mech God, however you wish to pronounce it, Pikal, Paradox, Nyanzak, and Piefkle. I'm assuming that it is pronounced like that. While on the other side, we have players like, oh, this has gone a tiny bit wrong. So let's make sure that we can fix this, which we can because we have the technology. Let's see. There we go.
Of the 21st century, Belle.
And
you can just fix things with the flip of a button.
I can. We have there indeed Frozen Melons on the other side, where we've got Dream, Tingle Tangle, Aidan, QJNHJ, to make it easier on the casters to pronounce that. We're going to be calling them QJ to make it easier on us. Sheckler and Natsuko, which we have mentioned before. So that is indeed the players that we will be seeing for this next series. The series will be a first to 3. I will confirm this real quick to make sure that I'm not giving any false information. Let's see. I'm not seeing this anywhere, but I remember from last time that this is the first to 3.
Yeah, it's only a best of 3.
No, not best of 3, first to 3, so best of 5.
Yeah, best of 5, first to 3. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that they'll maybe have told us if there was such a big change as a new best of.
At the very least, hope so.
Unless we find out that it's best of 3, right? They should win. That they're not winning. Okay, to the next map we go. So I'm
Oh.
sure we'll find out very shortly. And I mean,
Alright.
I'm looking forward to this. Are we going to see the Ilias being locked in? It is in the map pools.
It is indeed in the map pool as well. I mean, it should be the order as we got them in. So an assault map first on Volskaya or Hanamura.
Well, I mean,
would be
I
the
would
prediction.
actually kind of like to see Volskaya. It doesn't come up as often as Hanamura teams.
Most people
tending to
indeed go for
prefer
Hanamura.
Hanamura, but you can run some really zany things on Volskaya. But it's gonna be Ilias that we're gonna see. We're gonna
apparently
skip
going
Assault
to
and
be
Hybrid
Ilias.
and jump straight onto Control.
And
And
indeed
it will
we
be
are.
well that we're seeing first Bell. And you know what we always see in a good well map? And that's the Roadhogs and the Lucios and the Pharahs. You know, just the environmental kill potential is so big on this one map.
Indeed, the Reese's as well, going for the bunkers, getting the environmentals, as you indeed mentioned. So that will be something to see. We are also indeed running this tournament in the 2-2-2 lock, not on PTR, but it is enforced to run 2-2-2, as is indeed the new change to Overwatch in general. So that is always an interesting thing to see, forcing those DPS or getting those DPS outplays. But at the moment, it looks mostly mirrored, though not school on the... Actually, now it is completely mirrored.
Well, I mean, they're probably gonna just use the Lucio for that initial speed boost. And one of the supports, I would say, from each of these teams are gonna swap to the Mercy pick to try and support that Pharah in the sky. Especially if there's gonna be mirror McCrees on either side trying to take the bird out immediately.
Indeed, well, that is something that you very much want to try.
Okay, so Default are actually, yeah, both Default and Frozen Melons just using that Lucio to get the initial speed boost, trying to get to the point faster than the other team.
Indeed, and then swapping off to the Mercies, and is going to be Paradox, nicknamed by his team Paradox, as it seems to be a Pharah main, getting the first pick here. The res actually comes in on occasion, but Paradox with another pick here to boop onto Aidan, getting another kill here. A good hook onto Kukupapa, but he's not gonna get followed up on. Paradox with another pick on the Ana. Just the Pharah being a menace in the high skies here with the backup of a Mercy. Seeing a bit of a dogfight going on here outside of the windmill.
Well, a dogfight that No Malicious is going to be soon losing, and actually Paradox, he's almost got that barrage up already, Bell, and control point just unlocked.
Indeed, well, it is indeed already that Default have got the control point, so it's gonna be a challenge to now get some more space here for Default.
Paradox is just going to be able to farm this barrage out this last little bit that he needs, and we're probably just going to see him drop into the back line and try and find a support pick, or he could just go for the full frontal assault.
Indeed he could. Well, there is already one pick onto MC God, but the return pick comes in from Kukupapa, the main tank of Default. And it looks like Default will still be holding on to this.
Yeah, and Default, they actually hold on to this through the one use of a Deadeye to just knock Natskull out of the sky and take out half of that pharmacy.
Indeed, well, it's gonna be Novelicious taking out the enemy Pharah at least, but there is still no real push at the point. The bunker is still alive.
Well, I would say Frozen Melons haven't really tried properly pushing yet. They've been just waiting to find a couple of ultimates, just poking a little bit, getting some ult charge, and it will be probably in the next fight where we do see these big, heavy-hitting ultimates coming online. They've got the supercharges, they've got the barrage, they've got a nano, they're going to have a whole hog, a Valk, pretty soon a Deadeye as well.
Indeed, well, it's gonna be the supercharger that gets pushed in first. Is gonna break this barrier down pretty damn quickly, but it's currently not really getting any picks off. It's actually Frozen Melons who are gonna get some early picks on here. Halt comes in above, but no hook to follow up, so no kills from that. And the dogfight going on still in the air.
Default have been sitting on ultimates themselves, but look at all the frozen melons. They've got 6 glowing circles across that board. They just really have to pick which ones they want to contribute to this fight.
Indeed, well, Default already got 99% on the board, so they're gonna have to contribute something to this fight if they want to get a chance. Overtime is already taken down. Now, indeed, a boop onto Cuckoo Papa, getting the Orisa into the wall, and it's finally gonna be Frozen Melons getting some point percentage.
Well, they're breathing a big sigh of relief. And I was thinking that maybe we would actually see a lot more ultimates than we saw coming out from them. There's the superchargers and the nano committed. They were playing really passively, and if the Pharah had been taken out of the sky before the nano could have connected, they could have been in some real hot water. Default though, at 99%, they just have to win one team fight. And look at the ultimates that they have online. They're probably just going to push everything they can into one fight. Or maybe they're going to try and be conservative and cycle through each of these.
Indeed, well, it's a high noon now getting used here from Aidan just on the point. Is gonna break the shield pretty quickly, but other than that, not really find any kills. A halt comes in now. Will there be a follow-up? No, the hook doesn't make it. There's now gonna be a supercharge. The Paradox actually gets the pick onto Novalicious, who tries to go for the barrage, but just gets denied immediately. Pico now with the Deadeye of his own, doesn't find anyone, and everyone just kind of hiding around the corner. Now a halt hook onto Aidan. That's an opening now for the Default to actually get this pick, but Cuckoo Papa, no more shield, no more Orisa. But that barrage in the backline gets K-Chan, gives up his life for it, as Pharaohs tend to do here. Seagull with the Nano Whole Hog is gonna get a few, kind of forcefully pushing the enemy team off. It looks like Default will be flipping this point back. Overtime just ticking down once again, and is now just a solo McCree trying to hold on to it, and that will not happen.
That will not happen, indeed, no. They're playing very passively, Frozen Melons, at the moment. It's very strange. They sit on ultimates, but they go into fights and they don't try and open fights up with ultimates. They try and find initial picks, and sometimes it works for them. And sometimes it just turns around and they really pay for it. You maybe if you'd invested the whole hog that Tingle Tangle had been sitting on at the beginning of that fight, it would have gone a little bit differently in your way. They did manage to get 70% of that control point from the 0% that it seemed like they were going to finish with when Default took it to 99.
Indeed, well, we're gonna see whether they'll manage to turn it back here on the Lighthouse map of Ilios.
Interesting choice here on the Reaper from Pickle. I think Default are actually going to be anticipating Dream on this Winston and looking to cut the monkey down as soon as he shows his face.
Well, it's going to be Pickle who is the first one forced to retreat. The Reaper dropping extremely low. Natsuko with a good boop onto the Zarya, but another return boop onto Aidan. Dream now getting taken out, the Winston out of the fight, and that is one main tank gone. But a very big Antinate is going to drop everyone extremely low, but it's not going to be enough to actually get anything done here, and it will indeed be Default taking the first point.
And they're getting the stagger onto Tingle Tangle as well. They're not going to let the Diva remake and get away. They just cut her down where she stands. That's going to be Frozen Melons. Yeah, we're going to see a little bit of a switch up. They're going to go back onto this Orisa Hog combination. No more of the Winston. Pickle did actually manage to find quite a lot of value with the Reaper, already almost 70% to this Death Blossom. Nyan Zach, 80% to his first Sound Barrier, which means that Default, they're going to be sitting on some nice cozy ultimates to make them feel pretty nice and safe inside if Frozen Melons actually manage to try and find something like a pick.
Indeed, well, now the difficult part comes in where, I mean, Novalicious gets an early pick. Pickle already down, so no Ana, and it's actually going to be Cuckoo Papa trying to go a bit more aggressive here with the Reinhardt. They do manage to get Tingle Tangle out of the fight. A Death Blossom finds two here, and that is the Frozen Melon sent back to the spawn.
You never want to take your eye off a Reaper, especially a Reaper who probably has Death Blossom, and Frozen Melons, they pay dearly for that mistake. Aidan just not able to be there to connect with the flashbang, and Pico just gets to reign supreme.
And
He's actually going to stick with the Reaper, probably just trying to find the damage into the Hog now, even though there's no monkey to run dive into.
Well, there is indeed still the Roadhog, as you say, but it's going to be MC God being the first one to get picked off. A good Hook combination getting finished off by Aidan on the McCree. Now the Barra straight from beside gets to already the opening that Frozen Melons are looking for. And this is something that you now want to see. Frozen Melons with a more bunker comp is going to be a bit more easy to set up on the point.
Yeah, and not only that, bunker really finds its strength in the defense. If you're trying to be aggressive as a bunker, you're on the back foot, especially if you're going up against a Reinhardt. A Reinhardt who we should mention has Shatter online. Peefkill has that nano. If he hits a fat one, we're probably going to see instant follow-up on this. And Frozen Melons, they're not going to have anything to weather this storm.
Okay, well, that's a nano onto the Reinhardt, who's gonna go extremely aggressively, but Peefkill already out of the fight. A High Noon gets used here as well. Doesn't actually get anyone, actually gets killed for it. Shadow now into the backline. The point is actually flipped here.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a cheeky flip, and it's actually Default who were getting the cleanup kills, and that's cool. Going for a bit of a reset. Novalicious does have a second, another barrage up, and we've seen what this guy can do with those, just dropping in beside the Silent Predator, but they can't touch!
They can't make it to the point. Default already taking the first map quite convincingly, seemingly for a bit of the better picks.
Yeah, I mean, they went aggressive. And if you have an aggressive tank, then you really do find that you get your ultimates online faster. Because you just have so much more opportunity to chunk and damage.
Indeed you do. Well, it was at the end there, just 2 tanks and a Reaper with a Dream. And the Dream came true, they got their first round here. Indeed, the first round here for the bronze match, so whoever wins this will be the 3rd place of the whole tournament. So, there's a bit on the line here.
There is a little bit on the line here. There's a whole lot on the line here, actually. And I mean, I would say Default took those 2 maps pretty convincingly. Frozen Melons, there's a lot that they can do to pull this back. Like, it isn't lost by all means. They can still pull this back. They just have to play this more aggressively. And if you have an ultimate, they really do have to choose fights to invest ultimates into, as opposed to waiting to see if you can get an early pick off, because sometimes, yes, you will, but sometimes the enemy team will get that pick off first, and then you're on the back foot.
Indeed you are. Well, we will be going into the second map pretty soon as the teams converse about what they want to do here. Let's see, let's actually get a bit of a quick setting change to make my life a bit easier.
Well, they're talking about escort map spells, so if they're gonna be to be believed, it's gonna be either Havana or Gibraltar that we're gonna be heading to next. What would you prefer to see, Belle?
I mean, Havana being the new map is indeed interesting to see what players run, but seeing a nice dive on Gibraltar, I don't know, it's got something to it. Just getting that dive back in on Gibraltar, maybe seeing some Widows, some Genjis, some Tracer, like I'm a fan of that.
See, I'm on the opposite side of the coin at the moment. I want Havana because you know what everybody always does in Havana? They grab the high ground, they grab a Bastion, and they bunker up.
Exactly, this is why I wanted to dive. I kind of think the dive is a bit more interesting than just looking at a bunker, walloping damage into the enemy, who's just going to push the payload by hiding behind it with a Genji. Until they get underneath it, then hiding, forcing the other team down, and at that point the fight actually starts. Yeah, so it's just waiting out for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes until that extremely slow payload finally makes it to that corner.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see. Well, it's gonna be, you get your wish. It's gonna be Watchpoint Gibraltar being locked in. No Havana for me.
Hey, it's gonna be a dive.
Well, I mean, it might not be diving. The probability is high that we will be seeing this Winston Diva. Maybe even a Wrecking Ball coming out. But we could just see the Ryan Zarias as well.
I mean, indeed we might do. I mean, it is still indeed going to be a Gibraltar dive primarily played, which is in fact Dream's favorite main tank to play and considers this their top hero. But yeah, so that could indeed go into the direction of frozen melons. However, on the other side, Cuckoo Papa thinks their Hammond is their best tank, and actually apparently made it to about 4.1 KSR on the PTR as tank. So, can actually go either way. It is congratulations, but
we've seen though that Frozen Melons tried to start off with a dive on Ilias, that second map, and just got shut down by the Reaper.
That they did, but will you be able to play Reaper on this map? That's the question. Reaper a bit more difficult to play here. I'd say second point is a bit more easy to play Reaper at, because there's a whole lot more points that you can kind of flank around from.
Well, that's a team switch.
That is indeed a team switch. Luckily, we have buttons.
You do have buttons, and I have arrows.
And indeed, so but yes, like second point Reaper can become a bit more useful, but first point Reaper is just kind of more difficult because you essentially only have one lane with the difference of high ground and low ground. But other than that, like the entrances and exits are kind of just linear, relatively. Compare that to the second point. Inside the hangar, there is so many flanks that you can go on, and so many places that you can teleport to and get behind and hide here and hide there to just really be a nuisance on the Reaper. So I'd say first point, going for an aggressive dive with a Winston would be the play to go with, possibly a force switch onto something else due to a Reaper indeed on second point. That is my prediction.
We'll have to see. I mean, we could see the Widows, the sniper battle of the ages. It's always lovely to see the Widow picks coming out, especially on Watchpoint Gibraltar. Point A, just all of the open sightlines. The attacking Widow has to be so careful in how you approach, how you pick your high ground, because the defending Widow is just waiting with that crosshair just positioned on all of those spots that you see Widows try and take early on.
Indeed. Well, something to also keep in mind, the Widows, indeed, you are quite right about that. But something to keep in mind as a disclaimer, indeed, for this next thing, the teams did indeed switch around. What this means is, at the end of the map, you will see the wrong team getting proclaimed the victor. We will be keeping track of who the correct team is, so no worries about that. That's just indeed the bug with the custom games, that if the owner switches, you cannot change the names anymore. So something to just keep in mind quite quickly. We're waiting for some players to get back into the game. A quick restart, some issues, but we should be going into the map pretty damn soon. The Widows being, yeah, an option here, though I would indeed also expect possibly, say, Genji. Like something to dive with a monkey.
You wagering that we're gonna see the full-on dive with the Winston Diva, Genji, possibly Tracer to just harass the backline?
I mean, you can do Genji Widow dive or Tracer Widow dive. But for Tracer first point especially, it's a bit more difficult to just really get on the high ground. You have to set up a bit more, and having that tiny little walkway to get to where usually the defending team sets up on that high ground across from where the point is. But indeed, getting that Genji to just get to the high ground a bit more quickly and get the extra damage in, together with a Widow to then pick people off who are not shielded, I think that can be a very a strong way of playing this.
Yeah, Tracer is actually pretty vulnerable, especially if she goes onto that middle platform walkway. As you were saying, it's very easy to just hook her off and into your team. Where, I mean, she has a very small HP, Barbell. She's a very fragile British girl. She kind of gets a little bit beaten up and bullied if she's in to those middle of the enemy teams. She gets a little bit deleted, but it will be Aidan on the Widow and Novalicious going on to this Genji, if we can believe that they're going to be sticking with it. And on the other side, it's going to be a little bit of a defensive dive as well. Cuckoo Papa on this Winston, Pico on the Genji. What do you think about this pick of the Bastion? Do you think Novalicious is going to be
think that's a troll pick.
Or if it's a bait?
They are on the attacking side, I would say 99% sure troll pick.
Yeah, troll pick it is. Novalicious gonna be back onto the Genji. Aidan not gonna be going with the soldier. Opting into the sniper duel, Bell, it's going to be the Widowmaker off. A competition that will pretty much decide which of these teams gets the hugest advantage you can possibly have.
Indeed, well, it's gonna be indeed an initial drop onto the bridge here, where both of the Winces will be tickling away at each other just a bit. Yeah, the Widows is setting up here on in their respective positions. I don't actually
Paradox
taking a bit of a wraparound.
Yeah,
And a
Paradox is
quick
all the way
pick on the Ana, not actually in view of the enemy Widowmaker, taking the low ground, very interestingly enough.
Oh, now we're gonna have the sniper off. Aidan has kind of made his position very much known to the enemy team by taking out 2. And it's gonna be Paradox who's actually falling a little bit back.
Indeed.
Has to retreat because most of his team have already been wiped out, and this is so much free cart push at the moment for Frozen Melons.
Indeed, it is a very good initial push here, getting most of the team already out. There's going to be Pikal who's going to be the next to drop here. Again, another quick pick here for Frozen Melons, but now the Nano onto Kukupapa. There is 2 picks already for them to try and hold on to this. A good focus onto the Ana, getting the healers out of the way. Dream still doing a bit of work, but they are now indeed finally forced to pull back. Though with the Primal, Kukupapa still trying to get this Lucio.
I mean, he just runs away, Belle. He's a very hard hero to nail that kill down on. And so he does actually manage to make it back to his team. Aidan is gonna have the vision up before Paradox, so that's already a huge advantage. And I mean, if you look at it, Frozen Melons, they have so many ultimates online, whereas default, they're gonna have a blade and nothing more. Maybe a Transcendence if your Zenyatta can pop off. But if you go beyond the ultimates, it should be Frozen Melons taking this next fight.
Well, it's Paradox who's gonna get another opening pick, already having taken out the enemy Genji before, so that is both DPS out of the fight, but I would indeed assume that the Nano Blade will be coming in soon. However, on the other side, they do have the Transcendence ready to deal with that.
Yeah, well, you've got Pico, who still has this blade. We're probably gonna wait and see. It's not gonna be up, I would say, until Nianzak has this nano, because Natsuko is gonna have the Sign Barrier, but the Sign Barrier is not as effective a way as dealing with a Nano Blade as a Transcendence.
Well, we have the Nano Primal Dream now sleeping in the back as Kukupapa goes for a push onto the enemy. But now 2 picks coming in, 3 picks as Aidan, Dream and Novalicious take matter into their own hands. Pico gets a return pick, but will that be enough? The payload already with 2 meters just left. The Diva Bomb now coming in. It actually does get MC God out of their own mech. Pico as well onto Aidan, and that is where the Nano Blade comes in to keep holding on to this point. Finds 2, finds 3, finds 4.
Oh wow! That's the Nano Blade that you really want to get. He goes for the Lucio. Lucio's target priority numero uno, because they know that he has that Sign Barrier up, and if they don't get the Lucio out of the fight fast enough, then that Nano Blade is down the drain. The Lucio, credit to him, doesn't actually ult, because he knows he's already as good as dead as soon as that Genji charges for him, so they've still got that ultimate to fall back onto.
Indeed, well, Paradox again with an opening pick onto Aidan, allowing for them to hold on defensively a bit stronger. Once more having quite a good sideline, and now with no real contest, as they can't get past the front line of the vault to really dive this Widow here.
We're probably going to just see the bomb being thrown onto the payload, trying to open up a path at the moment, but they don't get the kills early on, though.
Well, the bomb got thrown in, so they do have a path now, but a good sleep onto Novalicious is going to take him out of the fight as well. It's just a Diva, a Lucio, and a Widowmaker possibly trying to make it back. Nope, it's not even going to be a Widowmaker. It's going to be overtime ticking down, and Default holding on to point A here on Gibraltar.
Very convincingly as well. After what seemed like it would be a very quick point A. They really do manage to just pull together and find the picks that just stop Frozen Melons dead in their tracks.
Indeed it does. Well, we're gonna see how Default will do their attack here. I would assume a bit more of this dive, and if Paradox keeps playing in the way that he's been doing, getting those initial opening picks, allowing for the rest of the team to just go so aggressive because you know you have the advantage. Like, the only loss that you can have is indeed you might lose the team fight, but then you might just be pulling out all of the ultimates and all of the resources, or just pushing them back to get some free point push. So it's just very strong how they're playing now. The individual play as well, just going really well.
Well, you would expect Frozen Melons, maybe if they lose to a team fight as against a dive composition, once they would continue to run what they were running with, but you have to kind of question why we didn't see counter dive picks coming out from them after they lost the second fight, and then the third fight, and then the fourth fight, and then as it got closer and closer to overtime.
Indeed. Well, they're gonna now be going for their own dive. And yeah, we're seeing a similar approach here as well, just diving onto this bridge, going for a bit of a tickle fight there. But Dream with the first pick onto Pikal. Pikal going a bit too aggressive, and Paradox, however, now a pick onto the Ana. Even though they lost a few, they do get the Ana out of the fight. If they manage to group up quickly, that can be already some 3-point push that they can get, as they are now at a disadvantage, having both the main tank and the Ana out of the way.
They are indeed. Ana comes back into fights very, very slowly, and at the moment, this card is just being pushed completely uncontested. Is it going to be able to make it all the way under the car wash, or is it going to be lapped onto? I think we're going to see a defense being rallied now.
Indeed, well, the attack is happening now. Dream is going to be the first to drop here. The main tank out of the way, and Tingle Tangle losing mech as well. No more tanks to protect the DPS. The payload getting really close to this yellow square, but a pulse bomb onto the Anzac. No more main healer. The blade comes in as well to just do so much damage. They will be holding on to this, but Paradox with 2 picks here as they are still losing the fight. Paradox is just still having at it. Pikal on the Tracer, still on the point. Now a dive onto the Widow here.
They don't actually confirm the kill though, and so Paradox can just wrap around, go onto the high ground directly behind the team and get all of these free shots in. And the Winston's out of the fight.
Dream getting taken out indeed. Paradox finally getting picked up here, but now with the Transcendence, neither of these teams will be dying. The bomb, however, might force a death. Does indeed force a death onto Nyanzak. Domer Ana here for Default to keep pushing this. But the payload is so close, and they still have 2 minutes.
They do, but I mean, Dream's gonna be back. He doesn't actually need to invest Primal into that, so you're gonna have that to fall back onto, because, I mean, Default, they're gonna be sensing blood in the water at the moment, but 1 minute 50 on the clock. The payload is so close to where they need to push it. They're probably just gonna wait, farm up some ultimates, and then just throw them all in. And I mean, at the moment, if you're Frozen Melons, what do? Well, you want to get Idan's Blade into action as soon as possible when Peepkill isn't going to have that Transcendence.
Well, MC God is gonna get the opening pick of the K-Champ, but Peepkill is also out of the fight. No sense for either team, and with both of the Annas out of the fight as well, no healing for either team. Cuckoo Papa going a bit nuts now. A Diva Bomb onto the payload. MC God with that bomb. Now both of the tanks are trying. Tingle Tangle doesn't make it back into the mech, so there's no defense for that. Another blade here gets pushed in, gets the nano actually, so that will be another hold onto this, and it's now 50 seconds on the clock. Trying to push this payload just those last couple of meters.
And Default really thought they could win that fight, and they throw quite a lot into it. The bomb, the primal, it's gonna be swaps that we're seeing. This is desperation swaps actually. Pico onto the Doomfist just so he can get back to the cart faster. Paradox is gonna have vision all coming onto line, so they're gonna know where all the members of Frozen Melons are, but you don't really need that to know that they're all gonna be gathered around that payload ready to contest.
Idan drops really low, does make it back to his team. He's gonna get healed up fully. It's gonna be Cuckoo Papa going for a very aggressive dive here. But the Doomfist gets twos that quickly. Just straight up into the back line. The Lucio also dropping extremely low. Pikal here just going nuts. The Transcendence comes in to keep him alive. The bomb trying to push him away, but it's not gonna help. Tingletanger out of the fight as well. Pikal with 5 so far. Is he gonna get a 6th? Well, Paradox gets taken out. MC God will be the one to take that 6th kill out. The Meteor Strike comes in straight onto the point, doesn't actually find the pick, but Nazgul extremely low, out of position, cannot really heal his team. That'll be overtime taken down, and the payload getting captured. Frozen Melons now with the victory. Sorry, Default with the victory. I said it before, and I fucked up. I apologize profusely to Default. It is warm. It is so warm.
Oh, the blade, Val, look at this.
Indeed.
Do you see the instant just lock on to the Lucio? That's when you know you're screwed. You can't run away from the Nano Blade, Val. It always hunts you down and finds you and picks up those kills.
Indeed, it does. Well, it is now 2 maps for Default. Running strong here. Going into the 3rd map soon. Seeing as the order of the maps is indeed not known to me, so it's the question what the next type of map will be, whether that will be a control point or whether that will
hybrid.
be a
Hybrid.
hybrid.
It now goes control, Ascot, hybrid, assault.
Fair enough. Well, if that's a hybrid, let me also look at the map pool. Kings Row or Numbani. I mean, the dive has been going pretty well, so they might actually go for Numbani, but maybe we'll still get the King's Row. Favorite for most people involved.
I want to see more Doomfist.
The Doomfist was pretty damn good, yes.
Like, they didn't have time Frozen Melons to swap to the Sombra counter, so the Doomfist gets just reign supreme. Go straight into your backline, deal with your supports. If you cut off the supports, you cut off all that healing onto tanks and DPS, which means that, I mean, the supports, if you look at Overwatch teams, they're kind of like a body, right? Your tanks are your chest, your DPS are your head, and your supports are your legs. You need your legs to keep the rest of your body up. If you take out the supports, then everything kind of just falls apart.
Indeed it does. No legs don't give you anything to stand on, so that's gonna make it quite difficult to really do very much here. But yes, I mean, we have not really seen... We've seen a bit of Reinhardt. But
yeah, we've seen a little bit. We saw him like a couple of moments.
We don't know how these teams just go Reinhardt v Reinhardt, and I'm still a main tank at heart, so I enjoy seeing the Reinhardt matchups.
Well, if you look at it this way, Frozen Melons have lost 2 maps now, I would say, to dive. And so maybe now they're thinking dive is not gonna be the best option to go, and so we're probably gonna see a King's Row pick coming out for them. They might decide to throw their lot in with the Reinhardt pick and go off this Winston composition that they just haven't apparently been able to beat default at.
Indeed, they might, but yeah, it's gonna be waiting out what the teams are gonna be picking. Do we still have a few more fun facts about the players? Because I think we barely managed to touch upon all of them. I did see in chat that people were talking about Idan's sensitivity with 1000 DPI and 15 in-game sensitivity. Maybe that makes the Widow matchup a bit more difficult though, because that control is really something that you might need.
Yeah, we're seeing Paradox take a little bit of advantage of that one. I think he does just get a little bit of a foot up in that field there, and I mean, it's unfortunate, but some of these things you just can't fix.
Indeed, well, there is indeed a duo of Pikal and Peevkal on default. Pikal especially, like, apparently since the creation of their team, he has been playing off tank, main support, flex support, hit scan DPS, and projectile DPS, and everything apparently on a pretty decent level. This person is also Ethan.
Yeah, and Peefkill, definitely not to be confused with Pico, is called by the team not Ethan.
Yes,
so
so we've got
maybe
Ethan-
he wasn't quite able to play the off-tank main support, flag
Indeed.
support, and all the other roles quite as well as Ethan.
Indeed.
It's
So we've got
Numbani.
Ethan and not Ethan to make it entirely not confusing at all.
Yeah, the two Ethans and not Ethans with Pico and Peefkill. But it's gonna be Numbani that they're actually choosing Frozen Melons. And I mean, I hope for their sakes that they have a plan for this. We're probably gonna see a little bit of, say, maybe the bunker coming out on the defense side. Maybe they're gonna be able to think that they're gonna weather the storm of the dive through the Bastion bullets.
Indeed. Well, we're still waiting out for this map to start, but it will be indeed Numbani. An attack dive is very common there. You could indeed choose it with the Bastion, but a good team can still deal with that. Like, my favorite tactic to deal with the Bastion compositions is to just get on point below them.
Yeah, and that forces them all to move, and rotations.
It
Are
becomes
very
so hard to
to
set up with that Bastion and to aim down with while still staying safe behind an Orisa shield.
Well, that's why you make sure that your second DPS is a bit more mobile and can get from the point, so it's not just the Diva contesting, or indeed the Orisa being forced to just drop down and put the shield onto the point.
Indeed, well, and at that point it becomes a lot easier to really deal with this Bastion bunker, but we might not actually see this. However, we will be seeing something pretty damn soon, as we will now indeed load into the map.
Well, the teams are back on the left and the right that we saw them in from the start. It will be Default who are actually going to go on the attack first, which means it's up to Frozen Melons to decide how they think they're going to be able to win this map on the defense. Because, Belle, if you look at the numbers, if Default take this map, they take the series.
They take this series and they become third in this tournament, knocking Frozen Melons out of the top 3. However, I am seeing very quickly in chat that management of Frozen Melons have promised the team that they would get Lucio O's if they manage to reverse sweep.
Oh, well, okay then.
Maybe
There
they've
is
been
motivation.
throwing. Maybe they've been throwing to just get the reverse sweep for those Lucio O's, which I hear are quite tasty. I've never had them, unfortunately, so do feel free to send them. Information is probably somewhere.
PO
Otherwise,
box
send me a DM. I will get you the information. I'm very much up for Lucio O's.
Free Lucio O's. That's how you pay the casters now. Not money, we just want Lucio.
We will totally not cast bias for your team for a box of Lucio O's.
I mean, it's food. You never say no to free food.
Oh.
But it's gonna be Paradox onto this Faradox pick with Nyanzak. Gonna be the pocket and Pico. I got my witch belt. It's the Doomfist.
It is the Doomfist, and will they be running this? It looks like they want to. It looks like they will be going to. And at this point, I mean, they do have something to deal with the Pharah, Novalicious on the Ashe with the Mercy to deal with it.
But how do you deal with the Doomfist? They don't have the Sombra. They don't have the McCree. No hack, no flashbang. If Pico gets into the back line, K-Chan is gonna go into a wall.
Indeed, well, the Doomfist gets found out by the Hanzo, a fight happening in the tiny Mega Health back room. A good anti onto Dream, now having it a bit more difficult, is forced to get out actually. Now the Doomfist Pikal indeed gets Ida, and that's 2 opening picks. This is going to make it extremely difficult here for Frozen Menace to hold on to this point.
Nazgul has gonna have the Valkyrie online. He's gonna use it, try to just keep his team alive. But that's a nanoed Pharah. They don't need the nano bell. They're already picking the picks up without it.
I mean, at this point, this is just an insult nano to just tell them, yes, we got the nano, and we're just going to use it to clean up your team.
Well, Nyanzak just asserted his dominance over Natskul. We had a little bit of a mercy on mercy action, and it will be Nyanzak who keeps Valkyrie and comes out on top. And this means that if they so choose, Default can go so aggressively and make sure that Frozen Melons just don't have chance to set up a defense, so they can get the payload all the way around this corner.
Indeed, they do still have the Ash, so Paradox is gonna have to watch out for getting shot out of the sky. But it's not the Ash, it's gonna be the Hanzo who actually gets a pick off a dragon coming straight across the street. Doesn't really find anything, but it does split up the team. Nyanzak, a bit out of position, is indeed gonna get taken out by the Hanzo. Aidan now on the Hanzo, popping off, getting 2 kills here as well after already getting a few before. Gets a rocket straight to the face. But it's gonna indeed be default sent back to the spawn to try it again.
Well, they've definitely got a certain variety of ways that they can try this again. Well, that is 6 ultimates online, all of their abilities. We're probably just going to see Primal and the Bomb, or maybe just the Bomb and the Barrage coming out.
It's just gonna be a bomb to create some space here, but we've got Aidan away from the rest of his team, but it is still Frozen Melons getting more picks at the moment. Now Tingle Tangle with the bomb of his own gets MC got out of his mech, but Pikal with the Meteor Strike, K-Chad, no more Zenyatta here. That's gonna make it quite difficult to hold on, and it's now just a Minidiva on the payload holding onto it, but that was a good stall so far. A dragon actually from the lone Aidan thrown in quite late. Will they go for reset?
The Genji though!
It does, but
Pikal gets picked off by it. We're probably gonna see a swap off the Hanzo onto the McCree. They've had enough of this Pharah. They want to just take her out, even if that means running 2 counters to her. K-Chan did die, but he didn't pop Transcendence, so his team do have a chance at this next fight. Because Paradox is gonna have that barrage, and it's gonna be up to the Zen to be able to transcend his team to safety.
well, so far it's already 2 picks here for default. It's the Diva mech and the Winston out of fight, and MC God now going extremely aggressive. No Valicious dropping quite low, and it's gonna be MC God just resetting the mech with the bomb. Getting a new backpack, always quite useful.
Well, Bob didn't find much value. He was slapped almost immediately, but they did manage to throw him to contest the payload. It's only going to be a couple of moments, but I mean, if you do manage to save a couple of moments, that can come back and really help you out in these overtime pushes.
Indeed, well, it's still 4 minutes to push this last point, but this last point, one of the more difficult ones here on the Nobani to really get that value, especially here for Paradox. There's just basically one straight lane for the Pharah to really fry around in, so it becomes a lot more difficult to hide.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get a sneaky barrage off like you see sometimes happening in little walkways and hallways. They're going to be looking for the Pharah. They know that she's got barrage up. K-Chan has been holding on stubbornly to this Transcendence, waiting for the barrage to be thrown in, or indeed he's just going to save it for Pico's Nano Blade.
Indeed, well, they're not going to be waiting for this barrage. This gets Natsuko out of the fight, so no mercy to do anything. Tingle Tangle actually with the bomb is going to force all of default back a bit. Kukupap and Yanzak being the next to follow, and it's Frozen Menace indeed pushing this whole fight back once again.
Yeah, and they're going to get a stagger off into the Diva. They're going to get the remake as well. They're probably just going to leave her alive. It's gonna be MC God, who's probably gonna have to just take the walk of shame and hurl himself off the cliff.
Actually,
nope,
not being allowed to.
Even gonna let him. And K-Chan still has this Transcendence. He's really been holding on to it. He knows that this Nano Blade can actually decimate his team. So, fair dues to him, he hasn't been scared into using it early.
Well, they want to get this Transcendence out if they want to get any value for the Blade. That is when the Blade comes in. It's going to pull out the Transcendence immediately, and the Bob as well. There's no real anti-nade to really deal with the Transcendence. But the Primal actually is the one that gets a pick off. But Kukupapa gets slapped, and it's default just sent straight back to their spawn once again.
Well, Frozen Melons, they really did have to invest quite a lot into holding on to that fight. The Bob, the Transcendence, the Primal. They're gonna have the Deadeye. We might see Natsuko just give either the Nano to Dream to just hope that Monkey can get into the backline and build up Primal really quickly with all the cleave damage, or to Aiden to make sure that that Deadeye can do a little bit more damage.
Well, a fight now happening on 2 fronts, and it's going to be Pikal who's the first to drop here to Aidan on the high ground. Is putting a bit more damage in from the high ground, might be dropping behind. No, Valicious actually gets Nyanzak out of the fight. No more Zen. Again, it is default having to pull back. MC God gets demeched once more. They're gonna have to change something out. This is not working, default.
Well, they are going to change. The Genji is going to go onto the Sombra. Cuckoo Papa is going to go onto the Reinhardt. We're probably going to see MC God either go with the bomb and see if you can get a pick with it. Maybe try and land it onto Nazgul, who just a little bit slower, can't really run away. And then probably a swap onto that Zarya, wait for that Graph to come online. But if you've got 1 minute, you need to find something to break this open. Both Zenyatas have got this Transcendence. Both Zenyatas are going to be waiting to hold on to it.
Indeed, well, K-Chan gets found out by Pikal, who has been waiting very patiently on the high ground to take the Zen out of the fight. No Zen means indeed no Transcendence, so this is indeed the point where Default can just start pushing in, and they finally find the way to break through the defense of Frozen Bell as a payload, now very convincingly moving with Pikal already to 50% of the EMP. It's gonna try to put it up a bit more, but Nyanzak indeed dropping. Pikal actually so many kills now suddenly from Default, having found the way to break through this defense, and now just getting kill after kill.
I think they were a little bit asleep, but now they seem to have woken up and come in all guns blazing. They want this payload to get all the way to the end. It might be an overtime. No, the bomb gets pushed away. No contest, no overtime.
Indeed, no overtime. They do manage to just full push this complete point, but it took them 3 minutes to figure out that they might need to swap. That dive doesn't work well on Numbani last point, which is just
common knowledge, I would say.
I mean, I usually find that dive is very difficult to run last point on Numbani, and I usually prefer to go back to the Reinhardt.
Yeah, well, we can definitely see a massive difference in the way that a Default were able to approach that last part after they'd swapped that monkey out for a Reinhardt.
As well, indeed, as we've been looking along with stream, it was Pikal with the Sombra having found out where the Zen was just kind of set up on in between the plants, on a bit of a high ground, on a bit of a ledge, just kind of waiting out and just sending out Discord and healing orbs towards his team, just kind of helping and disrupting everyone else. But he was very patiently waiting for a good 10 seconds for his team to set up before he revealed himself and shot K-Chan full in the face.
Well, I mean, if you can get that Zen off the table, especially if that Zenyatta has Transcendence, that's already a really big advantage to your team. Transcendence can save whole teams in fights where ultimates get thrown in to try and take them out. It can really just keep you out of harm's way, and if you can get the Zenyatta out of the fight before he has chance to pop Transcendence, you're already one step closer to victory.
Indeed, and at that point as well, what you get is communication. Like, you suddenly have your Zen screaming that there's a Sombra suddenly behind him, and that is going to be dying, while at the same time, your front line's getting pushed. Where do you go? Where does your attention go?
Well,
that is the question there.
Swap around, and it's actually going to be die from both of these two teams. Not really favoring the Reinhardt, though.
Indeed, well, first point, indeed, Reinhardt not being the greatest pick, especially if you're running 2-2-2. It's just so difficult because the high ground has so much value, but it is indeed Frozen Melons trying to dive, but they do get antied. Aidan and Dream dropping quite low. Dream still dropping low, but they do manage to get 2 picks now. Peefkal and Cuckoo Papa out of the fight, but Pikal with the return pick onto Dream. The Genji trying to do what he can, but the Ana is getting pushed at the back, though. Nyanzak says, no, you are not going to be my counter. I'm just going to take care of you. On my own. Nyanzak with barely any health left is trying to just keep MC God alive for as long as he can. Just trying to stall at this point as much as possible to just burn down that clock.
Nyanzak actually died as Nano came up. That's really painful. It's gonna make it so much harder to contest this point. That's already 2 ticks, almost a third. Cuckoo Papa's just gonna pop Primal and try and keep them all off it.
And the Transcendence gets used as well. It's now indeed a hack onto Cuckoo Papa as well, not allowing him to jump, but the Transcendence and the Primal are gonna just stall this point out for just a bit longer, and that is basically the only thing that they're trying to do. But that is now the Nano that gets used in. Pikal can't actually bait, gets hacked out of the blade.
And then slept immediately after the hack was off. And then hacked again and sent packing back to spawn. I mean, at some point, if your default, yes, you can say that they're trying to burn the clock off, but they wasted so many ultimates trying to do that Transcendence Nano Primal.
That could have worked if they actually managed to keep staying on the point, but at one point they just didn't pay enough attention to it and managed to lose it, not just
MC
getting the
God was
rotation
actually
in.
fighting off the point, which is when the second tick gets given up. But it's going to be Frozen Melons with the ultimate advantage at the moment. We're probably just going to see EMP either waiting for a combination with the Nano Blade, or it's going to be popped as soon as Pico pulls out his own.
Well, it's now just apparently a dry blade getting pushed in. It does find Peefkel, and Cuckoo Papa gets picked off as well. Aidan still in the backline is finally going to get picked off by MC God, but again, that's already 3 picks, making it very difficult to really start contesting here.
Well, this is restraint from Frozen Melons. They know that they're going to have to push this all the way, which means that they need to make sure that they have at least one ultimate in the bank at all times. And so if they can find a pick with just a dry blade, that means they have Nano to fall back onto, maybe save Dream if he gets jumped.
Indeed, well, what they didn't manage to save was MC God's mech. And it is now indeed the payload starting to push into this final point with 5 minutes to go. And they do have Novalicious indeed with the EMP, the Sombra, proving to be a big nuisance here, just annoying the backline. And with his EMP ready, that is going to be a combo, no one being able to do anything. That bomb finds Kukupap, who tried to shield from it, getting the bubble around it, and another pick onto Peefkel, so no Transcendence to keep everyone alive, and just trying to stagger onto point, but all of the picks are still coming from Frozen Melons.
It's the Desperation Blade from Pico at the moment as Frozen Melons just approach the point.
Now it's indeed a Nano onto Kukupapa and a Transcendence as well to just try and get back to the point. Dream finally getting picked off. The Desperation Doomfist as well from Paradox is trying to push them away, but now they're gonna have to hold on to this point for over 4 minutes with the payload nearly being full push. They cannot lose a fight.
Not only that, but they pulled everything they had in their resources other than that bomb from MC God.
They went
Which
so
means
aggressive.
that they have nothing to hide behind when this Nano Blade comes out, and you can definitely expect Frozen Melons to push forward with this. They can choose to wait for EMP, but that's a risk because Peefkel may be able to get Transcendence up in time.
Well, one thing that you might be able to use is this Diva Bomb to just deny it. Well, that is indeed a Diva Bomb, but it gets chucked to the side.
It goes the wrong way, and the Genji takes the Diva out.
Indeed, it does
is
now
like
hack onto
paying.
Kukupapa. The main tank out of the way as well. That is indeed the blade just getting enough value here. Peefkel getting nanoed.
Yeah, they have to. They need to find someone to find some sort of stabilization.
But they are still pushing back. The Zen, however, now getting pushed on, is forced to use his Transcendence. Does manage to keep his team alive as the reinforcements come back in. Kukupapa dropping so extremely low, but that is indeed a blade coming in. For Peefkel gets the Mini Diva. He gets hacked out of it, but that is indeed the Mini Diva out of the way. With 1 health remaining, he barely manages to get his life back, get some healing from the rest of his team, and they burned down another minute off the clock.
That they did Frozen Melons. They seem to be able to get the approach right, but there's just something about getting to the payload and getting it that last little bit that they just can't seem to unlock.
Indeed, well, Paradox does get taken out here, and Novalicious has another EMP. Now it's the bomb indeed. Will the EMP follow? It will, but the bomb won't find anything. The EMP is just a bit too late. Novalicious is going to be taken out, but another blade here is going to go into the backline, but he won't find anything apart from Pico. Paradox actually takes him out as the blade comes in. The Doomfist proving to be so valuable once again with 3 picks so far in this fight alone.
Yeah, really strong showing from Doomfist today, but really actually saving his team there. And it's going to be
Paradox.
Natsuko who's going to have a sound barrier, which may have actually been able to save his team, but they managed to just stick along with it. And I think Novalicious is going to be regretting that EMP. They tried to go with the wombo combo of EMP bomb, take away the shields that you're trying to hide behind. But the timing just isn't there, and now default, they've managed to stay alive long enough to get ultimates in the bank. Peefkel is still gonna have this Transcendence.
Well, the timing was there, and also default was expecting us, as they've already seeded once. Aidan getting picked up, trying to go for a flank, and Diva Bob from the high ground forces everyone to just kind of push back, so that is a bit more space created. The Sombra actually gets Beagle out of the way. They are going quite aggressive here for default to try and push Frozen Melons back, as they already lost one, but Pickle does have the high noon, which he can use from spawn essentially.
It could be something, but that's a lovely anti onto both of the tanks on Frozen Melon's side. Really going to delay this push, and I think Frozen Melons are just going to have to disengage completely if they want to keep the tanks alive.
Well, MC God is the first to drop. A Meteor Strike is going to keep Paradox alive for just a bit longer.
It looks like Default have found stabilization, Bill, and it's 45 seconds left on the clock. Frozen Melons, desperation times if they want these Lucios. They're gonna have quite a lot of ultimates to fall back onto and see if they can crack this open, but Default,
again,
Pico
Paradox
still have the chance.
But Paradox again going so aggressive. This is like the second or third time where he just went into the enemy spawn on his own. Again, the attempt at the wombo combo. No, just the Diva bomb placements was so bad, and Pickle is just gonna use the placement here to get 3 picks off with the high noon, pushing Frozen Melons back once again. There's only 5 seconds left.
And they invested pretty much everything. I don't think they're going to be able to touch Bell. That was the team kill gong. That is map!
That is map, and that is series. Default with a 3-0 takes the bronze place, takes the 3rd spot in the Space Force tournament. Frozen Melons with a very well played 4th spot, but Default just proving too strong for them to unfortunately deal with. A very strong initial push from Frozen Melons, but that last point just too difficult to break apart Default with some very good plays and some very good ult management, and especially staggering back in. It's extremely good play.
You don't normally see the stagger picks picking up the kills, but they really somehow managed to find them, even in the desperation picks.
Indeed they did. Well, that is indeed now this series then done with a clean 3-0 and nice neatly on time at around 9 o'clock. So we will be taking a short break as we will be setting up for the grand finals of AVX versus Eclipse. A rematch for AVX, who have lost before versus AVX, as we've seen in a previous stream. So it will be their redemption arc.
It's the grudge match.
It's the grudge match and the redemption arc. So we will be looking forward to that. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And yeah, that's about it. We will see you in a second with AVX versus Eclipse. Be right back.
can't look you in the face. I don't wanna have to lie. I wanted this love to survive. Now when I look in your I feel paralyzed. Now I know it's over. I see you passing by, hand in hand, with your perfect light. My body, a ghost town, feels like someone cut my tongue. I didn't know my heart could die this young. Oh, now when I look in your eyes, I feel paralyzed.
Hello and welcome back to the Space Force Tournament Grand Finals between Eclipse and AVX. I will be your play-by-play caster, Belly, together with me. Words are difficult, it is so warm. Together with me is the ever-wonderful and always informative color caster, Moxie. Hi, Moxie.
Hey guys, what a game we have for you today. It's gonna be the grudge match of the ages. Well, Eclipse versus AVX. We've seen these guys before. We saw them last week. We actually saw that Eclipse took it 3-0, so AVX are gonna be looking for blood.
And indeed, they will be looking for blood. As you say, a 3-0 last week that Eclipse managed to win. Eclipse indeed being part of the organization that hosts this tournament. However, they still have to win the games to actually win the tournament, but they are indeed in it to win it. They want to take the whole thing home and keep it within the organization, but AVX is there to wrench it out of their hands if they play well enough. And they just very well might, so it's going to be an interesting game to see what will happen here between Eclipse and AVX.
That it will. We may see that AVX, now that they've gone up against Eclipse a couple of times, know exactly what they're gonna run to deal with this team and neutralize them.
Indeed, they might do. And another important thing to note is the fact that Eclipse have got a new main tank. Seeing as they played last week with a different main tank, that might be a bit of a crack in their shell.
Well, that might be something indeed that AVX decide to just leap onto, try and take the main tank out of the way, take advantage of the little bit of a disconnect you might see between the team now.
Or this new main tank connects very well with the team and they play even better. That's always the question. It's difficult to say, but they do have a new main tank, so in that short span of time, is that enough?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll probably get to know pretty quickly on. It's very obvious when there's a disconnect and a sort of, I would say, chasm between your main tank and the rest of your team. Especially if the main tank starts appearing in the opposite end that you're wanting of the kill feed.
Indeed. Well, one thing to indeed keep in mind, the graphics do still have the old team names. So as we look here at Eclipse, it does still have TrainingBot on the main tank role. So that is now Sohi, the new main tank for Eclipse. Taking a quick look at their team composition or their team layout right now. After that, indeed, AVX with Kiwi, Lucas, Merlin, Ike, Muppet, Phosphor, and Darky Phoenix. However, indeed, the names might be a bit different as it is just alternate accounts, so no worries about that. It is actually these players. It is something that I got confirmed last week as well through some personal messages, so no worries about that. The people are correct, it's just the names in game look a bit different.
Accounts anonymous.
Accounts anonymous indeed. Well, it's gonna be indeed Lijiang Tower here, the control tower map first, where we're gonna probably indeed be seeing some rider for both sides, though it looks like AVX might be trying to go for a bit of a bunker. The difficult part here.
No, it was a bait.
Well,
it is a
still
possible play that you can go for, set the Bastion up onto the high ground, bring damage in as they walk towards the control, but it's going to be Genji onto this Junkrat. Meanwhile,
Indeed.
Eclipse are going to be going for the Rein Zarya with the Reaper Mei, so they're going to be hoping to win the fight out early, set up aggressively, and just wall people off as they get through that choke.
It is still going to be a bunker setup with the Orisa Hawk, however, no Bastion as the main cannon, but Sohi in the Junkrat trap, not allowed to move. He's going to get taken out immediately. That's the main tank out the way. Gonna need to use the wall to get out safely and retreat to get their main tank back, and at this point, indeed, the bunker has set up, and now you can start spamming damage into this choke. However, Ludwig is on the Zarya, so they can abuse this information to just get some tasty energy.
They can, but then at the moment, if you use the Zarya bubble to get the Junkrat spam, you've got the bubble off onto cooldown.
Well, what you also get is WBTC out of the fight, and the immortality field used quite early. It's already taken out. Lucas Merlin a bit out of position, has to use his breather to just stay alive. Dropping so low is not going to manage to stay alive, and the point gets flipped. There is a trap still on the point. Nobody actually stands in it, and it's indeed now Eclipse taking this point back by brute force.
Well, they're gonna be coming up to a couple of ultimates. AVX gonna have a couple of ultimates themselves, gonna have that Genji Junkrat tire. And we're actually gonna be seeing probably just the Blizzard coming in as soon as they walk through this choke. Tire's gonna come out early, but Wall's gonna prevent it from coming from main.
It's gonna take a bit of a flank grab. A PC Viking with the quick thinking and the right click takes it out. That is the sand barrier to deal with the amplification matrix. The Deadeye gets pushed in as well, doesn't find anyone, and it is indeed Eclipse holding onto this choke. Ludwig getting Kiwi out of the fight, no main tank, no shield. AVX forced to pull back.
And Eclipse, they used Sound Barrier Bell. They have 5 ultimates online. AVX, they used all of the arsenal that they had in the bank. Phosphorus coming up to a Transcendence that could probably get them through this choke. They're going to be holding on to that for Ludwig's grab. Lucas Melon going to have a whole hog, but the grab comes out straight away.
Sohi going so aggressively, just gets melted down entirely. But now the Transcendence comes in after all of Eclipse is already dead.
Well, okay, so yeah, that's a painful one. You're not gonna have it up, which means that you're not gonna have anything really other than an immortality field to deal with Mobius's Death Blossom. But we've seen teams, if they focus that immortality field down, it really does not last long, and you can still find kills. They're just kind of waiting to see what exact approach they're gonna go for. It's gonna be Eclipse coming in, the tire is out immediately.
Indeed it is, will it find anyone? It will not. It does a bit of damage. Immortality field actually being used quite early here. And that is a shatter that finds 5! The follow-up is huge! That is 3 early picks here, 4 early picks, and it's gonna force everyone of AVX off the fight. The issue with the Orisa, getting the outplay potential for the shatter is so much lower, and the shatter was so big, forcing them back into this choke with 86% on the counter is gonna make it very difficult to start pushing into this point.
But what do they push in with supercharges is the only thing they're gonna have available. The wall gets the Orisa, they can't actually confirm the kill, and the immortality field will save us.
So we're going very aggressively again. This time actually manages to stay alive, and it's forcing everyone so far out. The Eclipse will be taking the first map.
Nobody is able to contest the point. And that will be a very fast map number 1. Or point number 1. It's gonna be Night Market now. So, you know, we may see a couple of swaps coming in. If I do remember correctly, actually, we had a whole discussion last week about teams running, not really commonly running Winston, only to have teams run Winston. But it looks like it's gonna be Reinhardt from Zoe and Orisa from Kiwi again. AVX opting into this apparently mobile bunker.
Indeed.
But well, I would say it's not really working out for them at this moment. I would advise them to go onto the Reinhardt, purely because if they get shattered the way they did, well, goodbye, Peach!
Well, it is indeed Zoe gonna be picked off early again. Indeed, the main tank the new main tank a bit more aggressive than the rest of the team seems to be used to. When actually followed up, it seems to be working very well for them, but without the follow-up and without the team there, it seems to be going a bit more difficult.
Yeah, you never like having ifs, especially if you're working as a team. If your tank is too aggressive and you're not able to follow up with him, your tank is usually going to go down. They're gonna go for a little bit of a wrap around the point, but it's WBTC who gets Mobius out of the way. The Widow duel has been decided.
The Widow duel has been decided, but so has the Hanzo duel. And this is indeed Eclipse forcefully again, just pushing in. Zoe dropping extremely low, but they do get the point here. And just a few takes a percentage.
WBTC is standing on main, looking into the point and looking for picks as a Roadhog comes to make sure that they can't get too close to him.
Indeed, but it's Ludwig and Pete still on the point, just holding on to it. It's just Azaria and Lucio here holding on to this point, and they get 2 picks here as the reinforcements start coming in. Now a shield to keep them safe, and PC Viking with the Sonic arrow gets his counterpart out of the fight.
Well, Lucas Melon basically effectively staggered himself staying on the point. A Roadhog against a Zarya who's high charge. It's normally 9 out of 10 times gonna go to the Zarya, and now Eclipse can set up aggressively, which lets Sohi just let loose. He's gonna be looking to get this Shatter online, especially with the Orisa shield being behind him.
Well, a Shatter comes in, fights a few, forces the enemy team to use some ultimates of their own and some resources of their own. Now a Sandbearer coming in, allowing them to push in a bit more aggressively. Immortality field already being having been used. They are still holding on to this point, but they have to play a lot more defensively as KiwiD puts up the shield. Zarya not really that capable of breaking shields, so he back as the reinforcement, but is not really gonna find much as the point still is ticking up. Pete's holding on to it for as long as he can, getting it up to about 75%.
Well, at the moment, if you're AVX, it's all on your supports to try and weather the storm that is going to be this Dragon Strike combined with Grab. You have to make sure that Phosphor keeps a hold of this Transcendence. Either that, or you use it to go aggressively, but you have to then make sure that Darky Phoenix has Immortality Field.
On WBTC again winning the Widow battle, and Genji just throwing in the Dragon and getting 2 picks for free, essentially. That is a free team fight.
It is a free team fight. The approaches that teams can make onto Night Market especially, they're very much just hemmed into these corridors, which is perfectly sized for Hanzo Dragons. So even if you see it coming, there's not a lot of places that you can run to, especially if you started pushing in that far. But they didn't actually use ultimates, Eclipse.
They did not, but the percentage counter is already up to 70%.
Yeah, 75% to 73% is going to be AVX pretty quickly surpassing Eclipse. Still sitting on a couple of ultimates themselves, still holding onto that Transcendence. Darky Phoenix is going to have an Amplification Matrix on, so Eclipse are going to have to choose their approach very wisely.
Well, they are indeed going to approach now. That is indeed where the grab comes in. The Dragon as well. PC Viking actually gets Genji out of the fight. And even though they get the transcendence of the damage is so high that they do get a few picks. Zoe, however, out of the fight, no Reinhardt means no shield, so Kiwi can go for free. But the anti-nade finds both the Orisa and the Roadhog both getting picked off now. And it's once again Eclipse just forcing themselves onto the point.
Okay, and at this point, you know Zoe has the Shadow. He's been going really aggressively. He will definitely have it online. If you're AVX, this is when you swap Kiwi off the Orisa onto the Reinhardt to try and block it. Because if they get hit by this Shadow, it is game over, map gone to Eclipse.
Indeed it is, and he's going for it again, just straight past the wrist shield, giving up his life for it once again. Soundbearer push in is gonna allow for AVX to just start pushing onto the point here. It is indeed WBTC being the one to go to the point here. The main tank trying for some very aggressive shatters, but it seems to be just a bit too aggressive. Now it's going to be stagger picks coming in, so we're already onto the Hammond trying to get as much stagger as they can as overtime starts ticking down. Eclipse having it actually a bit more difficult here on this second map, maybe just going a bit too cocky.
Just a little bit. We can definitely see that there is a clear gap in the main tank, Zoe going aggressively, and the rest of Eclipse, who are sometimes there to capitalize, but also, and I'm finding it's more often than not, really getting punished for this main tank's aggression. And I think AVX are starting to understand that this is something that they can really expose and use to weaken.
Well, I mean, it's that as part of it, but also just straight up the fact that Zoe moves past the enemy shield, past the enemy Orisa shield to shatter people, but he doesn't get everyone, and now your healers are behind the shield and can't heal you.
Well, it's going to be Zoe onto the Winston. So you're not really going to have much worry there about moving past shields. You're a monkey, you can pretty much jump over them. But WBTC gets Peach out of the fight early. Magic Natty is going to risk the res, but it has to pull out the Winston bubble to make sure that it's safe for that Mercy to go there.
Indeed, well, the fire is gonna break this shield down early. It's an immortality field already on the point to keep everyone alive. Lucas Merlin getting a pick onto Zoe, the main tank out of the fight once again. This new pickup for Eclipse. The aggression is a bit more than the rest of the team really is used to, so it's gonna be AVX taking this first point.
I'm actually not going to be surprised if after we see a Meteor Strike. No, we're not. I was going to say if Zoe sticks with this Winston, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Reaper coming out from Genji, because they really could punish this monkey as soon as he jumps in. But it's going to be Zoe who's just going to go back to the Reinhardt, hopefully play a little bit more defensively, a little bit more with his team. They're going to be walking again into another amplification matrix, so really you have to be careful because you can fit these amplification matrices into these hallways, into these doorways.
Indeed, well, having to indeed force yourself through the white room, it is indeed the best play for a Reinhardt composition, so we're already dropping to half, forcing out the Zarya bubble, just getting melted down. This amplification matrix just amplifying so much damage, no main tank in the fight. That is indeed just a very solid play here from AVX to just get rid of this push entirely, and Peach still hanging around on the outside here.
Well, Mobius actually sacrifices himself, goes on a little bit of a suicide mission right into the enemy team and picks out WBTC. But that's pretty much all he manages to pick up. And I mean, at which point do you swap off the Reaper? They're not really running a monkey. Kiwi is on the Orisa, gonna be nice and safe behind that shield.
And Mobius going for a bit of a flank. Forced out of it by with a Wraith, is now in a bit of a tough spot. He's gonna manage to teleport out and get back to his team.
Eclipse going for the same approach, but they're just gonna really get pulled into it. They don't want to commit at the moment. They have no ultimates online. They're gonna be waiting for Peach, I'm guessing, to come up to this amplification matrix, but that just means Genji can get into the back line.
The wait is a bit too long. They're just kind of waiting around, not really doing anything, even though there is indeed the supercharger. There's no follow-up plan. It's now indeed just one Lucio contesting point for as long as he can, but overtime is going to be starting to tick down here. Can anyone still make it to the point? We've got Amara trying to do it, but they're not going to manage. It's going to be AVX taking the first map on Lijiang Tower here, and this is their redemption arc now in full effect.
That it is, and I think Eclipse at the moment are going to be having a couple of words with their main tank. It's by no means determined that AVX are going to take this, but if Zoe is going to continue playing the way he is, and AVX, they haven't actually, I would say, taken as much advantage as this as they could on this main tank.
Indeed, they have not. They can go a bit more aggressive, but you just have to be able to play with, like, the main tank just decides so much of the flow of the battle, and so he is going for some good aggression, but if the rest of the team can't follow it up, then either the team has to go more aggressive with the main tank, or you have to start pulling your main tank back in.
I don't know exactly what just happened, but suddenly we seem to jump lobby. It's a lobby hop.
Indeed it is. Well, it should not matter too much as we indeed switch lobbies here to go for the next map pretty soon, but it is indeed AVX with the first map taken. The Eclipse are gonna have to get some better play together to manage to push this back. They have the tools and they've been playing really well so far, but Zoe just gets picked off so early in so many fights here that the rest of the team can't really follow up.
Well, this is, I would say, when we're probably actually going to expect to see a couple of different picks from AVX's defense. Picks where you can really rip apart Reinhardt. Say, Sombra, or maybe, yeah, normally I would say the Sombra, just try and hack him up as soon as he kind of gets in close, because if he's playing away from his team, and you can have him surrounded on both sides, if he goes too aggressively, you can have your entire enemy team in front of him, so he can't drop his shield, or indeed the Sombra behind him, so that if she tries to hack his back, he is then forced to turn and pivot, which then leaves his back exposed to your team. Like, you can really clamp down on this Reinhardt.
Ready for battle.
I mean, if AVX managed to abuse the aggressiveness of Zoe and Eclipse don't manage to either reel him back or play along with him, then AVX are really gonna have a good opportunity to just take this back from their previous loss of 3-0 versus this same team, but with a different main tank.
Well, I would say this is actually a smart decision from Eclipse to come out with what exactly they're choosing to run. Zoe is going to be onto this Orisa, which means that you can't play as aggressively as far away from your team. They're going for a little bit of a surprise defense here, Belle. Very up close, very personal. Pretty much just going to try and jump on AVX as soon as they show up.
Well, what they're also gonna do is lose their main and off tank pretty early on here. Along with the Sombra, actually, Phosphor with some quick picks. This is AVX just forcefully pushing their way onto Eclipse and just taking advantage of their aggressive position.
Okay, so we see a little bit of improvement. Zoe didn't just go aggressively on his own and get picked off for it.
But the Halt Hook just got
the rest of his
taken
team
out.
go aggressive with him and get picked off for it as well.
The Halt
Like,
Hook just getting Ludwig out of the fight immediately, and that is already just breaking up this bunker so damn quickly. Now indeed the setup in the corner, but Zoe now indeed walking forward without his shield. The dragon now getting used, but the immortality field is already up, so it's not really gonna find anything. The WBTC finds the Baptiste here, and Genji finds the rest of the team on the Hanzo. And the payload has not stopped yet. 5 minutes and 22 seconds on the clock to get the second point.
There was just no contesting the Widow and the Hanzo, who were just free to shoot arrows and bullets into Eclipse's faces, just chunk so much damage in. Eclipse are gonna have Mobius's tank mode, so maybe they'll be able to find a pick off that, but we're probably just gonna see AVX scatter as soon as you hear the ult line.
And I mean, WBTC has got the sides up now. Ludwig with no hook find here, no halt hook either, but it's going to be the supercharger going in. Amplification matrix from both sides. But it is going to be the Bastion dropping first. WBTC just pelting in damage. Mobius and Peach both added away. Kiwi now as well with the follow-up. And it's another cleanup. Mobius is still alive, but this Bastion, do you still want to keep running it?
No! You need to swap off it, and now, but they're still just stubbornly holding on to it. I think they're only going to go off this Bastion when the tank mode has been thrown in, and they are going to pay dearly for this. They're going to try and get a little bit of a defense coming in now. They're actually, I think, just going to try and rush once again this really aggressive positioning, and they're going to pay for it.
Well, they get Darky Phoenix out of the fight early. Mobius now finally with the tank mode gets Phosphor, but with the hook is gonna get Genji out of the fight as well, but you finally use your tank mode, and now they're pulling back.
They are pulling back. They did manage to win that fight though, so it is gonna be the payload finally stopping.
For about 20 seconds and then just moving on again.
And then just trundling happily on its way. They're gonna have ultimates to stop it, but AVX, they've got ultimates of their own, specifically that Transcendence, which can really help them through these supercharges, through this amplification matrix. They're not even gonna need it because Phosphor is just taken out, so no trans there. Which means Eclipse can go aggressively now. The Zenyatta is gone.
Indeed, though, Mobius now on the Widow themselves. Off of this Bastion finally. The hook actually gets cancelled here by the payload. Ludwig is still staying alive. Payload now finally stopped very late here into Havana. WBTC with the pick onto Magic Nacti, who just used Valkyrie. No more Mercy, no more Valkyrie, and now the picks are coming in again. The payload just keeps trundling along, as you said before.
And Phosphor still has this Transcendence. So when the contest comes through, if Eclipse are actually going to be able to manage to rally a final defense, especially with WBTC just set up with perfect positioning to those spawn doors, what are they going to do? What can Eclipse possibly throw in that's not going to get healed up by this trans?
Well, what is going to happen is Genji once again with pick after pick after pick. Just going so aggressive now. The supercharger is just at the side. Dragon coming across point, allowing for no one to really get onto it anymore. And that is just such a clean push here from AVX.
It really is. I mean, I think the payload stopped for all of 15 seconds.
This is nearly as much time remaining as you start out with.
That it is. And Eclipse, I would say their problem here, strangely enough, was that in some instances, they got picks off, but they didn't go aggressively after it. You see on point C, when they managed to get the Zenyatta out of the fight early, who still has Transcendence, they could have pushed forward with that, knowing that the Zenyatta is going to be out, that ultimate isn't going to be available. You can go for another couple of picks.
Well,
but they don't. They pull back, they give ground.
There's also a thing of like knowing when to go aggressive, knowing when to stay defensive. And as this payload was going into the first checkpoint, we had the bunker set up in a little corner around the mega health pack. And what happened there was indeed the shield got broken, and you saw, for example, Zoe again walking forward away from his team, as opposed to just staying with the team. So some AoE healing can come in, waiting for the shield to come back, and getting possibly another fight in with your Bastion, who was indeed almost at tank mode again. The rest of the team as well, an early pick on indeed, with the very aggressive setup on at the first point as well, and then during the second point just getting picked off again and stubbornly staying on the Bastion just for this tank mode. And then in the end, how much value did you get for that tank mode?
I mean, you managed to win one team fight off it.
But how much time did you win? Like I said, 30 seconds, because after that, they just pulled back.
They did. Well, it's going to be Zoe onto this hamster, the Hammond, so he can go a little bit more aggressively, a little bit further away from the team, take the flanks. They're going to be looking to try and hook. Lucas Melon does try, but it doesn't connect, so the hamster is still free to roll around. Not exactly sure what he's waiting for. He is all the way away.
Indeed, and WBTC just taking the opportunity of no shields or anything around the payload, just gets a quick pick off and another pick off onto Peach. No healers anymore available.
And where is Zoe? Is Belle? Can you go on to Zoe? What is the hamster doing? I'm very confused.
Zoe is currently waiting to dive just in the background.
Yeah, he's been waiting there for since the map pretty much started. Like, I think there was maybe he was waiting for the communication from his team, but then WBTC managed to find an opening pick, similar to how he just did again, which is going to delay the dive. But at this point, surely you want to just try and find something, some form of ultimate charge, and he's finally going to go in. Lovely
Indeed, a
anti.
big anti indeed, but they're gonna get healed up. Lucas Merlin dropping quite low at this point. Is gonna manage to get his breather out. Genji finally being the one to drop. PC Viking on the Genji here, getting 3 picks here in this fight, finally breaking through this defense. WPTC still gets Peach out of the fight, and it's Phosphor still alive. The Zen just casually floating back to his team.
Well, they'll still be able to have one more chance at contesting point A. Phosphor is quickly approaching this Transcendence. WBTC vision is out, so he's going to know exactly where Mobius is positioned.
Indeed, it is.
There's no one touching. Are they going to just get point A for free? No, finally the contest is coming.
Indeed, the contest is coming in, so they will actually hold on to this for just a bit with about 40 centimeters left, but the picks are still coming in for Eclipse here. The supercharger gets invested as well, and we still have a WBTC sleeping on the side. And indeed, for chat who have indeed been asking, this is indeed alternate accounts. As said, indeed, before Genji is Muppet from the layout, WBTC is AIK or Ike, however you wish to pronounce it. So that's indeed alternate accounts, so no worries about that. But now indeed we see AVX still with a few ultimates ready.
The antis though!
But the immortality field keeps everyone alive. The bomb doesn't get anyone. The shield still in a good position.
And the blade's gonna come through. They're really trying to find this. The Transcendence is out though, and that's a dragon that finds PC Viking.
Indeed, but PC Viking finds 2 already. The payload is still moving. Someone has to drop down to start contesting. It is now going to be an amplification matrix on the high ground, allowing for them to do a lot of damage, but the payload's still moving.
They're not contesting it. No, they decided that the high ground was more important than the payload, and they might be paying dearly for that mistake.
Well, Phosphor is actually gonna get taken out. Immortality field actually on the point, so Kiwi is gonna stay alive. WBTC winning the Widow battle. Now indeed the Widow being free to shoot whatever he wants. PC Viking going for a bit of a hunt.
It's just Zoe, and he's gonna be very quickly taken out, I do believe.
Well, reinforcements now coming in. We've got a Genji and a Lucio trying to push onto this Widow, who does manage to find their way out.
Yeah, but the hamster does not. He will be sent back to spawn the hard way, as will Peach, who will be joining his companion.
Well, it is now gonna be AVX holding on to the point.
Some very strange investments of superchargers from Kiwi in the last couple of fights, actually. On the point A, where the fight is pretty much already lost, and also during that team fight where, once again, he's lost quite a couple of people around him, and it's just really a lone Orisa on the payload.
Indeed it is. Well, WBTC now behind the shield is actually gonna be Genji on the Genji, pushing in on Peach, who is just away from his team, gonna get picked off, with Magic Nocti being the next one to drop to the main tank of Kiwi. And that is Space vs Eclipse just pulling back once again. Why was Peach not with the rest of his team?
We don't really know. It could have been a little bit of a miscommunication. Mobius is actually gonna somehow manage to make it out alive. He was just standing on the sidelines trying to get a shot in, but he gets spotted out by the Genji, also known as Genji, who goes to try and hunt him down, but he gets back to his team, which is something that Peach doesn't quite manage. They're gonna be looking for this. They're gonna have the vision and the sound barrier to go aggressively.
Indeed, they are going to invest sound barrier. The amplification matrix actually comes in for AVX to hold on to this immortality field as well. Now, and Nano onto the Diva. Well, the Diva bomb does fight too, but now Genji with the blade gets PC Viking out of the fight. Together with the supercharger, does indeed a bit of extra damage. Genji with barely any health left, 10 health on his hit bar.
they're not gonna actually try and confirm the kill onto Peach.
They
who's
are not.
going so aggressively. Anna, why?
Well, Pete's
He
gonna
could have gotten back.
lose their head to WBTC. Genji did. I mean, I can understand them going back. He had 10 HP trying to take that fight. If you get hit by the anti-nade, you're out of the fight.
Yeah, but I don't understand why Peach went so aggressively.
That is indeed a good question.
You don't have like that. It's not that he has only 20% left for a nano. He doesn't. He's 80% away. PC Viking is going to have to dry blade, and Phosphor has Transcendence, which is pretty much just going to negate that ultimate entirely. They have to pressure the Zen.
They do, and he is indeed trying. PC Viking now pulling back already. Discord. Phosphor out of the fight. No Transcendence. That is an opportunity for Bruno. No, on the point. The point's just in the back. They're going for the fight, but by now the payload's just moved all the way back to the checkpoint.
Oh dear.
AVX taking their second map to, dare I say it, a proper full-on C9.
That is indeed a lot of number, Val. You hate it when you see it happen. You really do. They got the murder goggles. They we'll see the same magic trick as we're probably, no doubt, whisked into the next lobby.
And indeed,
You know,
we
lobby
might
hopping
do.
as a sport. Like they went for the Zenyatta. They thought that okay, we got him out of the fight. Now we can blade. Now we can get the team kill gong. They forgot about the payload.
They did indeed forget about the payload, but well, we're gonna have to edit the score here. Let's see. That is up to 2 now.
It's Overwatch, Belle. Forgetting about the payload is an occupational hazard.
Indeed, it is. And I mean, that is a very big occupational hazard. Like, you're gonna have to fight around the payload at some point. Wow. I was so unfortunate. Like, they had an opportunity, they had an opening, but AVX is just looking for blood.
They are, and they're finding it. They really are just managing to kind of take apart Eclipse piece by piece, whether it's taking advantage of the main tank's over aggression, whether it's taking advantage of the main support's over aggression, if it's like the little tiny little slips in communication where one team member goes away from the rest of the team, they do really just jump straight to attention and just slam down and punish them.
And indeed, it is just straight up punishing them, just everyone going for the fight. But it's gonna be Kingsor as the next map, which is gonna be an interesting fight to watch, as we have seen indeed. So being extremely aggressive, which pans out for Eclipse if they manage to follow up on it, which is kind of the point.
It's a big if. Like, it takes a lot, especially a main tank suddenly being switched in a team really actually decides sometimes how an entire team works. It's suddenly switched all the way around. If you're going from a very defensive tank to suddenly a very aggressive tank, your supports are used to kind of sitting in the back line, being away from most of the fire, only really having to worry about dive compositions where they're being targeted. Indeed, if your tank suddenly goes aggressively, then your supports have to move a lot further up, which puts them into further harm's way. They can get hit by suddenly things that they've never really had to worry about before. The off tank has to work completely differently. Maybe you use your bubble cooldowns on your previous main tank differently to, say, initiate fights. Maybe you have to use the bubble cooldown on Zoe, indeed, to save him after he's gone too aggressively into AVX.
Indeed, well, this is now gonna be an interesting fight, where Zoe might once more go quite aggressive, and that is kind of the question, isn't it? Will they be able to reel in the aggression or play along with the aggression and get the value that they are looking for?
Well, it's going to be QE onto this Orisa pick that we see so often from him. A little bit of the mobile attack bunker, but they're waiting Mobius on the high ground, going to hack that Orisa key target.
Well, it's gonna be an immortality field taken out first. It's gonna be a bunker to attack with. So that's an interesting approach here, which might indeed once again be in favor of AVX here, who have proven to be quite good with that. Genji with an opening pick onto Mobius, no Sombra, so that's going to be no EMP or hack for AVX to have to deal with. And a very early amplification matrix is going to just force everyone away. WBTC with Magic Nacti out of the fight. It's not Peach this time, it is Magic Nacti on the Ana just getting taken out. Immortality Field trying to keep Zoe and Peach alive here, but they will not be able to. Mobius now coming back onto the point, but a solo Sombra is not going to be able to do much.
No, it's not. And actually, I think you would have been better off having that Sombra stay alive, as PC Viking is surely wishing right now. And now you have WBTC who can set up, knows exactly where they're going to come in with the respawns. Pretty soon going to know exactly where they're going to choose to set up that attack. The visor is indeed Vision coming in. No, he does not have a soldier ultimate. That would be a very scary thing if Widow had a legal aimbot. And we can actually see Genji taking this high ground. He's going to be looking for the dragon placement. Mobius is going to be trying to put this EMP up as quickly as possible, because it really is going to be the opening that Eclipse need to win this next fight.
So we're going to get hooked out just a bit out of position now. Dragon is going to split the tanks off from the rest of the point. The Immortality Field getting invested quite early. Another hook onto Zoe, just getting read like a book. Bad luck is Merlin at this point. No more shield for Zoe. Can't go aggressive anymore. Gets taken about by WBTC. Ludwig is now the primary person in the way, but gets taken out as well. Secondly, Magic Nacti trying to stay alive here to the best of their ability. Peach not able to get the heal onto them. The Immortality Field also better out of position, and the payload just keeps happily chugging along.
And
Mobius,
if you watch,
however,
all of AVX are focused on finding this Sombra. Every single one of them at the moment is trying to find it, and they find it! Mobius spotted out! They were looking for him since the beginning of the Streets phase. No EMP, the Sombra has to translocate out.
But again, Zoe with the Shatter gives up his life. They do not manage to get the follow-up with the EMP, but Zoe, the aggressive Reinhardt, just goes past the Orisa barrier, not being able to get shielded. If the EMP was not there, that probably would have been a loss once again.
That it would have been. But I mean, Phosphor is gonna have the Transcendence to weather the Grav. It's probably what we're gonna see initiate this next fight from Eclipse. We're probably as well gonna see Magic Nacti give Zoe this nano. We know he goes aggressively. If he just hammers away and all of AVX get caught up, if he's nanoed, that's probably gonna be a shatter built up immediately.
Well, it is Mobius in the backline trying to take WBTC out of the fight, but they do actually spot him out. He is on the mini health pack, now taking a bit of a fight.
Has to translocate out again, and they're still trying to hunt him down.
Indeed, Mobius barely managing to get out with a sliver of health left. And it is indeed AVX going for the fight. WBTC with the pick on Peach. No Immortality Field, no extra healing. That is going to be the Graph getting invested. The Immortality Field keeping everyone very neatly alive. The Transcendence is going to heal everyone up to just go more aggressive once again. Now it's going to be a nano onto Zoe, who is going past the shield once again. But this time Magic Nacti is going to go aggressive together with him. But Lucas Merlin on the point, just still going nuts. It is now a Hanzo versus a Hanzo and a Roadhog versus a Reinhardt. Lucas Merlin getting the pick.
The Rhine.
But now Peach comes back in. Lucas Merlin, are you now not feeding? He's gonna get charged out. Whole hog denied.
Yeah, well, Zoe is breathing a big sigh of relief that his Batiste was able to get back in time to bail him out. That would have been embarrassing. He was so low because he'd actually been hooked into the dragon. And I mean, that could have gone completely the opposite way if Peach hadn't been able to get back in time. And it will be Mobius with the EMP. And so it's going to be up to Darky Phoenix to not be caught out by this and manage to throw an Immortality Field to save this team.
Well, that is a dragon getting pushed in, but they don't actually use the Immortality Field. They just kind of get out of the way. But Mobius now indeed with the EMP finds 6 Phosphor out of the fight. Though Genji gets Mobius, it is now a 1-for-1 pick. Will they go aggressive on this? They have indeed swapped off of the Widowmaker for the McCree, and Genji onto the Junkrat. The Immortality Field is going to keep everyone alive through the Shatter, but the charge is gonna negate that completely, getting them out of this Immortality Field. PC Viking getting a few more picks of their own, and it is indeed Eclipse still holding on to King's Row right here.
Zoe forgot to put the shield up after he'd killed the Junkrat, so he dies to the little grenades that spawn out when a Junkrat dies. That's an embarrassing one. But I mean, Eclipse are gonna be holding on to the amplification matrix. They're probably just gonna throw it right down main as soon as AVX decide to fully commit. There it is, coming out. So much damage just being thumped into them.
Yeah, but AVX just gonna hide it out, wait it out. Phosphor is not. Phosphor trying to go for a cheeky bit of damage and gonna give his life for that. That is an investment that you probably don't want to see. Mobius on the backline is gonna get burned down. Zoe going aggressive once again, this time with the follow-up of his team, and Nana coming in as well. But now the High Noon gets Peach out of the way. No more Immortality Field, but T's out of the way. Zoe now forced back. The rest of the team also forced back.
The Immortality Field is out of the way, so here comes the tire. There's nothing that they can really hide behind. They have to destroy it before it hits its target!
And it does hit a target, it hits Ludwig, so no grab either. It is now PC Faki still in the backline with a dragon ready to throw across the point. It's 2 meters to go, 2 meters 50. Mobius is back, it's gonna get flashbanged and taken out. Peach onto the Lucio pick to stagger it out. It's gonna get halted and burnt down. It's just Reinhardt just pulling back right now, and they do finally manage to get the point.
They manage it, and they take PC Viking out before he can actually throw the dragon in, which is absolutely huge play. Dragon would put them all off the cut. That overtime bar takes down so quickly. Mobius is trying to build up a EMP, but Phosphor already has this Transcendence farmed up. He just has to decide when he wants to use it. Will it be to combat the grab? Will it be to combat the EMP?
For some reason, going very aggressive again. And just gets taken out, gets flashbanged first, and is just there alone without the rest of his team.
Maybe it was up to him to contest so that Mobius can get into position for EMP, but no, Mobius! He almost falls off the map and he has to try to get out to save himself!
Well, that's now an EMP that fights for Immortality Field, is going to keep everyone alive. Apart from Lucas Merlin, who's a bit out of position, the Transcendence is going to keep him alive. Mobius and Maginacti, the first two to drop. The grab now coming in is going to pull everyone together, but the High Noon is going to make sure that no one can really follow up. And the tower now as well, so we can't get under the point, and they manage to get the full push.
So he chooses to shatter instead of contest. And oh, you're gonna be back at that replay, and you're gonna be grinding your teeth because, yeah, that's not a nice way. That kind of is a little bit of a callback to how they lost that Havana map. They choose the ultimates instead of the payload. Well, it's quite easy to forget in the heat of the moment. Blood is pumping, the overtime bar is there. You can kind of see victory slipping through your fingers. You want to do something to stop it. But you really do have to remember payload is unfortunately a thing that you have to continue to touch.
Indeed you do, and they managed to do it with still a bit of time in the bank, so they do still have a chance to manage to hold on to this. AVX looking for blood, wanting to win this one, because if they win this third map, it is a best of 5. That is them taking the victory and the full victory of the whole tournament and their revenge.
It will be the redemption arc in full swing at the moment. I mean, I kind of don't really want to see Zoe on the Reinhardt. I want to see him swap into something that's a little bit slower paced, a little bit more focused on actually forcing him to play with his team, because Kiwi is going to be onto the Reinhardt. And we know that AVX have been working with this roster. They haven't had to swap their main tank out. They're comfortable with Kiwi as their main tank. He has a huge advantage right now.
Indeed he does. And actually, a fun fact here for AVX that I'm seeing in the chat. AVX apparently originally stood for Ad Vertex, which is Latin for at the summit.
Ah, well, they are certainly reaching the summit as we're watching this battle. It will be a pause as Eclipse do the ever exciting rounding of the corner
and
indeed
they do.
That point that they do have to capture. Apparently their support is a little bit
Peach indeed seemingly AFK, nowhere to be found. It's a bit unfortunate to see that happening. Peach indeed having a bit of a difficult day, but it seems like they will be getting back into this game shortly. But yes, Peach indeed with a few questionable decisions, I would say. Indeed, that Lucio on that last point is going to possibly help Mobius out, but indeed away from his team, and just gets picked out. But now it's going to be indeed Eclipse trying to push into point, but it's Zoe again being the first to die, Peach being the second. And this is indeed now AVX just pushing aggressively back, and Eclipse going straight up into the spawn.
Well, the main tank being out of the way just opens the floodgates, and it's pretty much all of Eclipse, who was sent back to spawn the hard way. Don't really get a chance to farm up many of the ultimates either. It's going to be PC Viking, who's really the furthest in his team, going to be 59%, 60 to that dragon. Kiwi is going to get the shatter so much faster than Zoe, despite, I would say, Zoe being the more aggressive Reinhardt.
We've had a minute of game time now. Mobius is only up to 40% of the EMP, trying to annoy the snipers in the backline. So going aggressive again. That's an early shatter, doesn't find anyone. The immortality field already gets invested, but also just kind of drops eventually Lucas Merlin, burning it down. So we're not really getting an opportunity to push in here. Mobius going into the backline, and amplification matrix now for the attacker side. But AVX are just gonna pull around the hotel. We're just gonna wait back here. WBTC now with a pick onto Mobius. That is the Sombra out of the fight. The Dragon to just pull everyone away from each other. Immortality Field is gonna keep everyone of AVX alive. So we're gonna drop again. Ludwig also having been dropped. PC Viking does manage to get a trade onto WBTC, but it doesn't seem enough. AVX is just forcing them back into their spawn once again.
Yeah, and unfortunately Zoe invested the shatter. It did get a lot of AVX down onto their backs, but it means that he's not going to be able to combine it with Mobius's EMP, and Kiwi 86% to his next shatter, whereas Zoe, who just used his, only 20%.
Indeed, though, one thing to look out for right now, Mobius is almost at that EMP. We'll be looking for it soon. Once you get Dark Phoenix hack, but it's not gonna manage, gets spotted out. The PC Viking gets phosphor identified, but Mobius has got no EMP. And,
yeah, and they
amplification
grab,
matrix is now
despite
in.
the Sombra being missing, they think the Dragon is just gonna have to do enough damage.
Well, the immortality field is gonna keep everyone alive. Though Zoe with the fire strike finally gets Lucas Merlin. WPTC out of the fight as well. Kiwi's just gonna charge in and give up his life. This is already a lost fight. They know it. Just go for a quick reset. Try again. Next point. But now with 3 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock, it's gonna be Streets phase, which proved difficult for AVX to push through. Will it be equally difficult for Eclipse, or will they be able to manage to push through? Mobius does have the EMP for essentially a free team fight.
He does indeed. He didn't actually get to use it in the last fight. He was taken out early. So that should be the next fight. By default, if he manages to land it, going to Eclipse, but they're not going to actually be able to get the chance to invest it. They're all too split up. And it's AVX who get the separate picks and manage to actually halt this payload only a little bit after the choke, which means they can really set up here and be a thorn in Eclipse's side for trying to get it through.
Indeed, they can. Well, it is indeed Eclipse just getting pulled back. Mobius not getting an opportunity to really push in here.
But he's going to be looking for this EMP shatter combination. My worry is they haven't had the main tank for very long. Are they going to be able to get the combination off?
No, they're not. They're just going to throw in shatter. Mobius taken out again. The Sombra just not getting any opportunity to do anything. The EMP did get used, so there's no effect for the EMP. Magic Naxi, however, does get Genji out of the fight, but that is just a Hanzo. You lost another team fight, and AVX is just taking this aggressive position at this very difficult for his choke. Mobius with 3 attempts to get the EMP off just doesn't manage. Mobius, why didn't you just go over the high ground?
He swaps to the McCree. I think he's had enough of the Sombra. It's just not quite his day on the hero. It's going to be Eclipse going for a little bit of a sneaky wraparound, but they've been spotted out by AVX, who already know this trick.
Well, it's a bit of a stun onto Kiwi here, and now it's indeed the high noon and not really managing to get anything. It's PC Vacuum with the Dragon and the Storm Arrows getting 2 picks, finally breaking through the first choke. Look at the distance that the payload still has to go. But again, I am wondering, Mobius, why did you not go onto the catwalk? Go from there. Why do you have to go into the... You had EMP, you just have to get into the enemy team and EMP them.
Well, that was about 2 team fights ago, and unfortunately, things are happening right now. It's gonna be a rally. It's gonna be AVX pushing in aggressively.
The Shatter finds 4 here. It's gonna be Kiwi going extremely aggressive, gets a charge onto Mobius, and the picks again for AVX with the Immortality Field just staying alive, grabbing the point back once again. The clock ticking down slowly to 1 minute left to get this point to the second checkpoint.
And now, are they going to set up aggressively, or are they going to fall back to the corner? No, they're going to go for the choke. Zoe does have Shatter up, so I think that's Kiwi falling back. Gonna just play behind her in the round bookshop, try and bait the Shatter out in what you love to call the Rhine mind games.
Indeed, well, this is going to make it easier as the Transcendence is going to allow them to go aggressive, but the stun just cancels the Shatter completely. The Dragon finds 5! What? How?
30 seconds.
Well, I do believe that is a team kill, and that is Genji rightfully emoting on payload. He has earned that celebration. That is 20 seconds in the time left. AVX, they're going to have a zoning deadeye if like any of Eclipse actually manage to make it towards the payload. Kiwi is coming up to another Shatter. Ludwig does have grab. There is still a way that they can win this fight. They have nothing really to deal with it other than the immortality.
Well, the grab comes in, and this is a dragon to return it. That is indeed the zoning high noon, as you mentioned. It's gonna find Ludwig. That is one more pick. No more Zarya for this fight to do a bit of extra damage or to protect Zoe. The amplification matrix is at an awkward spot. You can't really use it. Mobi is dropping so low. It's gonna get burned down. The counter amplification matrix is in a better spot. You're gonna be able to get some damage done with this Immortality Field, keeping everyone alive over time. Starting to take down AVX with a 3-0. Will take the victory in the Space Force tournament.
That they will redemption arc complete. They got beaten last time 3-0. They come back and they beat Eclipse 3-0 themselves. Congratulations to our worthy and well-deserving winners, and commiserations to Eclipse, who played wonderfully, just not quite wonderfully enough today.
Genji, you absolute madman. You absolute madman. Well, that is indeed now the victory to AVX. Congratulations, AVX. You've won the Space First tournament. Eclipse with a very solid second place, but indeed, like, getting some roster changes last minute is indeed a bit difficult. That can make fights like these difficult, so that is quite unfortunate. They put up a very solid fight though, and there is still very much a lot of opportunity in the future to grow from this and to learn from this and to get better and to possibly win it next time.
Yes, well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how exactly Eclipse come back, especially after they've had a little bit more practice with the main tank that they've now got in their roster, whether or not it will be the same or whether or not it will be a different story.
Indeed. Well, that is indeed the Space Force tournament then, with that officially done. So for one, indeed, I want to thank the Space Force organization for letting us cast this. It was great fun to cast these games. They were very great games. I enjoyed it. I'm assuming Moxie did as well.
That I definitely did.
Well, as usual, make sure to just follow everyone. As I said last time, follow Space Force. They've got some cool stuff. They've got some cool teams. They've got multiple teams. It's a full organization. They've got indeed their stream right here that we are streaming on. Then the same you can see on the stream right now. Myself and Moxie have got our own streams that you can follow. We have our Twitters. Indeed, there is just there was a message in chat before. I will send a message in a bit as well to just indeed go follow everyone, keep track of everything, because there's still some cool stuff that might still happen in the future. For that, I think that was kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, for now it will be goodbye from me, and goodbye from Belle, unless you have anything else to add.
Not apart from indeed getting our Twitters into chat. Let's see, and at Got Moxie. There we go, some self-promotion. I mean, we gotta do it. It is something of a thing that is just kind of part of it. For the people who don't like it, we do apologize, but hey, we're trying to just keep our stuff going. That being said, the Space Force tournament is indeed, as I said, officially over. Thank you, Space Force tournament. Thank you to all of the teams who have played tonight for some really, really great games and some really, really great plays. With that, have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you around next time. Bye-bye, guys.
Night, guys.